right, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Reminder, please look at your phone, even if you've already looked at it before. Please look at your phone, make sure that it's on mute, on silent, however you describe it. Thank you so much. I don't have my phone here, so I cannot do it. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a tirka, but it'll be a tirka for everyone. Good morning. Okay, careful, yeah? Okay. All right. Any other business before we start? No. Okay. All right. So this morning, instead of the Parsha, we're going to do some Yane Seta. So the first thing I want to do is a shorter shiur. The topic is Miriam at the Seder. And after that, I will make a few comments about some issues that have come up already to my attention, some questions that have been asked already, and that'll be an introduction to any other questions that you will have morning, okay? So that's the agenda for us, and the first thing is our shiur, and I'm calling it Miriam at the Seder. Okay, so women are so important throughout the year in Jewish life, and they are ever more so important on Pesach, both in the current situation and also 3,300 years ago and onward. So I'm just taking one slice of that and focusing on our matriarch Miriam, who was a Neviah. She was a prophet, and she was instrumental in the Geula, in the redemption. And I brought some sources to provide the basis for this discussion. Okay, so you may have heard of some modern contemporary customs that are, not necessarily from the Orthodox community. Right, so they want to say that give Miriam a visible role at the Seder, even though Moshe Rabbeinu is not even mentioned at the Seder. We eclipse Moshe, but now they have to bring in Miriam Dafka, right? Okay, so that's how some people feel, right? You may have heard of putting an orange on the Seder plate. How many of you heard of that custom? You have heard of it. No, some of you haven't. Okay, you're not missing anything. The second thing is an interesting one, which I found interesting, was that they put a kos shel Miriam, right? A cup for Miriam, and they put that next to the kos shel Eliyahu, right? So why do you think they have a kos?
Put water in the kos.
Put water in it, right? Why, Rivka?
Because of the marriage, we had water.
Right, because she had the well, the bear of Miriam. Right, very good. So none of those. I don't know. It's because of Miriam. I don't remember. I didn't do a lot of research on that topic. I apologize. But these customs are not based in Jewish tradition, but we have a rich source already of understanding that Miriam is very prominent at the Seder. So we have so many connections to Miriam Hanaviah. So the first thing comes from the Tanakh itself, goes back to the Tanakh, and it's in pasuk in Micah chapter 6, verse 4. Which is not a well-known pasuk, and I certainly don't know Nevi'im at all, because in yeshiva, you don't learn Nevi'im. You learn Halacha and Gemara, and so maybe a little bit of Torah, but Nevi'im, right, Rabbi? Forget it. Like, Rabbi Eskowitz is very knowledgeable in Tanakh. But you don't. It's not because of yeshiva, but it's a beautiful pasuk. If you haven't known it already, Lisa Meretz Mitzrayim U'Beit Avadi Pidisicha. Right when Hashem says that He brought us out of the land of Egypt and from the house of bondage, Eshlach Lefanecha, that Hashem sent before us Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. So in the Tanakh itself, it says that Miriam was one of the shlichim, one of the leaders of the Geula, of the redemption, which is very interesting because we don't hear that said explicitly in the Torah in Sefer Shmos. Right? We hear that Moshe was the leader and Aaron was the spokesperson, but we don't hear that Miriam had a role in the redemption specifically. All right, so fascinating. Right there, we have right in the Tanakh that Miriam was the emissary of Hakadosh Baruch Hu when the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt. In Shmos Rabbah 26:1. So it's based on the pasuk when Amalek came, and then there's a midrashic explanation that this war with Amalek was related to a pasuk in Eo, where it says, "I was not serene and not silent and did not rest, but turmoil came." Right. So they give a couple of explanations, and then there's another explanation that says, "quote I was not serene." What does that mean? Due to the first edict that Pharaoh decreed against the Jewish people, as it is stated, right, by Yamararu Eskayehem, they embittered their lives, from chapter 1 of Shmos, and the Holy One, blessed be Hakadosh Baruch Hu, provided a Redeemer, Hamid Goel. And who is this Redeemer? Zu Miriam, Al Shem HaMeror, right, which is very interesting, right? So Miriam was the Redeemer, which is a positive thing, but she's named in connection to the bitterness. And here the source says that that it was Maror, that it was the bitterness of the slavery, and it was connected to Miriam, who was also actually the Redeemer. So Miriam's, we'll see later that the name Miriam, right, has Mem Resh, which spells what? Mar, right? Doesn't mean Mr. I know you were thinking that. Not Mr. But it's bitter. Bitter. Okay. So very interesting connection. The bitterness and the juxtaposition of bitterness, but again with being the Redeemer as well, which is an interesting comparison, right? Putting one next to the other, both bitterness and the redemption. All right. So now we have another source. I couldn't find it online to be able to copy and paste it, or I tried copying it, but it was from a Hebrew book sources, but it didn't really copy very well. So I just give you the instead of the text itself, I just give you the idea. The Mafilta Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai use a redemption as a result of the proper actions, right? The Maaseh Kasherim of Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. And so Miriam again is listed along with her siblings as part of the redemption, and because of their righteous and proper actions, the Jewish people were redeemed. Once again, Miriam is central to the redemption. And then we have Bereshis Rabbah. All right, so we have to go on to the second page. Right, in the vine were three tendrils. Once again, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. And in the discussion of the pasuk from Shir Shirim, it was the budding, the redemption of Israel was budding. So at the beginning of the narrative, you had Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, the three siblings, which were the leaders of the redemption. Once again, Miriam is connected with Moshe and Aaron as the redeemers of the Jewish people. All right, so the next topic where we find Miriam is in the three matzahs, right? What's the traditional idea of why we have three matzahs? What do they represent?
Cohen Levi Israel.
Calling Levi Israel. Three types of the Jewish tribe. That's the classic idea, but it's not the only idea, right? We think that if there's one answer, that that's the only answer. But just as we saw many, many months ago, that the 4 cups of wine had also many interpretations, even though, we think that it was only because of the 4 languages of redemption. But there, in the sources, there are many, many others. That just became the best example, the most popular example, the most widespread common understanding. So too, with the number of matzahs we have, there are also many different interpretations of that and what it symbolized. So the Sefer HaSukkot, which is an early Rishon in Germany, a student of Rabbi Eliyahu ben Yitzchak of Carcassonne. I wanted to say that. I don't know where that is, but I like saying it. Carcassonne. Let's all take it. No, I'm not going to have you do that. But she was the student of a famous Sefer Harokeach, Rabbi Eliezer of Worms in Germany. Did I miss something, David? Any questions? Okay. So he says that the three matzos reflect Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, right? And he quotes the Gemara in the Yerushalmi, and the professor Yael Levine from Israel. I got a lot of this material from her articles. She's like the expert, I think, on Miriam and the Seder. And she says that we don't have that version of the Yerushalmi, so I could not find that for you because we don't have it. So it's not because any computer malfunction this time, but we don't have that Gersa. All right, so fascinating idea. Once again, Miriam is central to the mitzvah of matzah. The next one is the tav shel, right? In the Gemara in Brachos, in the Bible, not Brachos, in Sukkot that we have, there are 2 tav shilim. There are 2 cooked foods that we put on the Seder plate, right? Originally, these cooked foods were probably part of the meal, but over time, they became symbols on the Seder plate. So we have the zroa and we have the beitza. Right, so the zroa is the meat, the basar. Different people have different customs for whatever they use for it. And second, we have the hard-boiled egg. So the most common interpretation of this ritual is that it represents the 2 korbanos that were given on Pesach. One is the korban chagiga, and then one is the korban Pesach. So these are the 2 korbanos that were offered on the table. Why dafka and egg to represent a korban? That's another question that we can have, and a lot of symbolism on that as well. I'm not going to get into that question. Suffice it to say that that's the reigning custom that we're all familiar with. However, that's not the only source within Jewish tradition. Once again, Harokeach, right? We just mentioned his name, Elazar of Worms, who died in the early 13th century, quotes the collection of Shuvot, the responsa literature that was attributed to Rav Shari Ragon, who was in Babylonia, right? I don't want to get into the Jewish history of how Babylonia is connected to Germany, but Rabbi Elazar of Harokeach quotes this custom from the Gaonic period. So it was even before the Rishonim, after the compilation of the Gemara, says that there are 3 cooked foods which are placed on the Seder plate, not according to the minhag that we have. And one of them was meat, and the third one was fish, right? So we have the meat and the egg, the basar and the beitza, but then we have the dug as the third item. So that's maybe it's the idea of butter the nugget. Maybe the idea of like he even had gefilte fish. That was the big one of the day, guys. Maybe they had gefilte fish.
Okay, the horseradish.
The horseradish as part of their meal. Okay, so they represent once again Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Okay, so now we go to the Maggid section, right? This is the place in the Haggadah which gets its name, Lahagi, Vigada to Labincha, to tell the narrative, to tell the story. That is the mitzvah of the night, the mitzvah of the night of Sipor Yetzias Mitzrayim, to tell the story of the Passover experience, the slavery and the redemption. And how does Miriam appear? This will be a little bit of a fanciful one. If you like gematrias, how many of you like gematrias? Oh, you do? Fun. Okay, excellent. So here's one that you can share and you enjoy, talking about Miriam at your Seder. So the grandson of the Rambam, until I saw this source, I never heard of the Rambam's grandson. I heard of his son, Rav Avram ben Harambam. He's not just Avram ben Moshe, but he's Avram ben Harambam. Not many people get that name. Usually it's just the first name. So, but I never heard of his son, David Hanagi. Nagi means a leader. So he must have been a leader. I didn't have time to research his biography. But Hanagi means that he was some kind of a leader of the Jewish community where he lived. And obviously he was a scholar and a Talmud Chacham, and he brings a notricon. And that is a type of a gematria, which is using acronyms, right? In Hebrew, we call that Rashi Tevot, right? When we say the name Rambam, it's an acronym. The Rashi Tevot, the first letters of Rav Moshe ben Maimon. So that's where we get Rambam. All right, so notricon is using the first letters of a word to offer rabbinic interpretation. So David Hanagid uses the word Agadah, right? And Agadah is the Aramaic word for Haggadah, right? Sometimes the Hey and the Aleph transpose between Aramaic and Hebrew. And so he says that the Aleph refers to Abraham. Okay, we talk about the bris bein habesarim, the covenant between the parts from Bereshis chapter 15, which prophesied the servitude in a foreign land and the ultimate redemption. So Agadah, the next letter is Gimel. Gimel is for the three shepherds of Israel, right? The Roa Yisrael. The shepherds are often the prophets or the leaders. So the three shepherds of the redemption were Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. All right. Daled is 4, right? In Gematria, Daled is 4, and that represents the 4 matriarchs. Once again, we're slipping in here the importance of the mamas instead of, which is interesting because the 3 are usually the papas, right? The shlosha avos, right? That's what we say in the later in the song. The 3 are the mamas and 4 are the papas, right? We had the Beatles last week, so now we have the mamas and the papas. Okay, thank you. H is 5, the 5 books of Moses. All right, he was working really hard to find this gematria. Like, what is the hey? You're talking about Kamisha from Torah. All right, I'm not vouching for how fantastic this gematria is, but right, I just wanted to point out that this is another source that we have in Rishonim, where Miriam is a prominent leader, and instead of using three as the avos, they use the three leaders and prophets where Miriam appears. So I think that's pretty important source. Very interesting. Okay, so the next one, you've been waiting for this one, right? Because this is the maror. We mentioned earlier the connection between Vayamaru Esayehem and Miriam because of the play on words that we have. So the Shalah, who is a great commentary that I didn't put his years. I apologize. I forget when exactly. Did I not put? I thought I did in Horowitz. No, I guess not. It's Rabbi Horowitz. Shnei Luchot Tabris. I'm sorry. I don't remember. You can look it up. It says the mitzvah to say maror at the Seder, right, corresponds to Miriam, right? So we have another three at the end of the Haggadah section, the Magid section, right? Rabbi Gamliel says what? How many things do we have to say? Shlosha. We have to say three things. What are they? Pesach, matzah, and the maror. So you can do a whole share on, we have numbers at the Seder. 4 obviously is a big number, but 3 is also a big number as well. And so, so this is the Shalah based on the Rabban Gamliel. He connects, I'm not going through the whole thing, how do you get, Moshe and Aaron, how are they related to Pesach and Matzah? The easiest connection, from what I saw in those Makoros, trying to make these connections stronger, the clearest, strongest connection is Miriam, right? So so she reflects the bitter experience in Egypt. Later on, he goes through another longer explanation connecting with the well of Miriam. And there he explains that it's the idea of chesed, where that's why she was given this great mitzvah of the Be'er Del Miriam because of her kindness, because of chesed, which he then goes on another deeper level, which is another switch. So this is a little complicated, right? Because how many of you have, David mentioned grain is horseradish. How many of you have horseradish for maror? What else do you use? Romaine lettuce. How many of you use lettuce? Right, we kind of do both. We do parsley for maror. Wow. For carpas. Was it carpas? Okay. So maror, the two, like the Family Feud, the first two answers, what you use for maror is horseradish and lettuce. And what is the Hebrew? I think Rivka mentioned. What's the Hebrew word for lettuce? It's tasa. They actually had that in the Gemara, so it's not like a new thing to use lettuce for maror. We actually in our home we do too. We use the horseradish root for the maror itself, and then we use the lettuce for the sandwich. There are different customs. Whatever your family does is acceptable. So chasa, now we're doing a play on the word chasa, because the midrashic kind of play on words. Chasa is the word chas. And in rabbinic Hebrew, chas al mamonam shel Yisrael. That in halacha we say that we're certain leniencies, right? You want to sell your chametz. Anyone selling their chametz these days? We're doing a big business, by the way. And afterwards, you need to bakasha. I have the time set out. Bakasha. So usually Rabbanim are lenient when it comes to selling liquor. Because liquor is usually expensive and it's hard to replace, even though liquor itself is chametz gamor, it's real chametz. So we're lenient with respect to selling the chametz because in halach it says chas al mamonam shel Yisrael, that Hashem cares about the finances, the parnasa of the Jewish people, and so Hashem offers different leniencies when it comes to things like that. Or if you may have heard of replacing china, for example, if you've had china as an heirloom for 40 years and it hasn't been used, but if you buy it a new one, it'll be $3,000. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, it's not just a rabbinic fumfering around, but the Shulchan Aruch says that we're making kashering clay cheres, which usually you don't do. You don't kasher clay vessels, but when it comes to chasam mamonam, they make if it's left fallow for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So there are leniencies because the word is chas. Chas means to care. Care relates to chesed, right? It's kindness. And that fits in with the air shell Miriam, which is very interesting. So we have here a duality again within Maror. On the one hand, it's a sense of bitterness. But in the application, when we use chasa of lettuce, then we can make a drash that is actually an idea of chesed. All right, so that's another dichotomy that we have, that it's either bitterness or it can also be a sense of caring. And that's what Miriam represents. So it's not just that Miriam, I don't want you to go home saying, oh, Miriam was bitter. That's merely not, it's just her association with this word. And that is continued here in the next section, which is the idea of servitude, which is on the top of page 3. And it's another midrash from Shir Hashirim Rabbah. And it's based on the pasuk, behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. And the midrash says, the winter is past, right? Is winter a good time or not a good time? We're not talking about Florida. We're talking about the Northeast. Is winter a good time or a bad time? It's a hard time, right? So these were the 400 years that were decreed upon our ancestors, right? It was it was a hard time. And the rain is over and gone. These are the 210 years, right? So there are different layers of the slavery. I'm not going to go into that whole figure. That's a whole share in and of itself. Was it 430 years? Was it 400 years? Was it 210 years? There's a whole discussion of that. I won't get into that today, but only to the extent that we need it for this midrash. So then they ask a question, but wait a second, isn't that rain identical to the winter? In Israel, there's very little snow. It depends on where you are. When I was in Israel in 82, 83, it snowed, the old city, it snowed about 7 times. It never really accumulated, snowed quite a bit, but generally, we know that in Israel, the winter is the rainy season, not really a snowy season, right? So it's the rain. So the rain is identical to the winter. They're synonymous. So Rabbi Tanfuma said, the main issue with the winter and the problem is the rain. So that's the conceit. That's the essence. Thank you. That's really the essence of the winter. And so similarly, the main enslavement of Israel, right? The essence of the slavery was 86 years. So watch the move there. You want another gematria. It was from the time Miriam was born by Yamararu as Chayegem, once again using this pasuk, Drash. It says, so from that time, that was when Miriam was born. So it wasn't that Miriam was the problem. It was just that she was associated with the bitterness as right, it's Miriam with the mem resh expresses this idea of merirus, of bitterness. So why is there this connection? Because why do we say 86 years? Because if you do the gematria of Miriam, you get 86. Okay? Mem resh yud mem.
200.
So wait a second.
Two,
So
nine,
there's a problem.
190.
There's a problem there. Wait a second. All right, so there's a problem. So now, like a good magician, right? Whenever you make a mistake, you gotta fix it up. So take a look at the chidah. Take a look at the chidah. Chaim Yosef David Azulai, a tremendous Talmud Chacham, a Kabbalist, Talmud Chacham in Halacha, in Gemara, from Yerushalayim. I mean, somehow he ended up in Italy in the beginning of the 1800s. He says the servitude was 86 from the birth of Miriam. How? Because they were supposedly in slavery for 430 years, right? So as a result of the subjugation, Bnei Israel became Balei Mumim. So now he uses a halachic idea. A Baal Mum is somebody that is damaged, right? And if you learn the Bava Kama, you know that there are different kinds of damages, right? There's Boshes. I said same, I missed the H there. Boshes, Star, which is pain, Ripoy is medical expenses, and Nezek is the physical harm, right? If you lost the ability to use your arm for a period of time, then there would be a particular way of assessing how much was valued that had to be paid. So because, and this is a fascinating idea, it took away 4/5 of their servitude. So since they were supposed to be in exile, as we said before, for 430 years, they ended up only having to be subjugated for 86 years because there are 5 times 86. So 4/5 of the bondage was removed. So 430 divided by 5 is 86 left over. So it's not the gematria of Miriam. It's just from the time that she was. So he explains why it was Dafka 86 years. So there's a very fascinating approach to why it was Dafka 86 years in the Midrash, and it takes a great going to figure this out. So based on this idea of the removal of the Shiva, the essence of was 86 years because 4/5 of the nezek of the damage had to be paid off by because of the servitude. So the essence of it was 86. So what he's saying is that maybe it's Bezachut Miriam that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, right? So there are many midrashim and explanations that tell us that the servitude was not as bad as it could have been. So all right, so there it goes. So the Gematria Miriam is not 86, but it is a rushing. There is the Inu Osam. There's the rest of the pasuk of chapter 1, verse 14. It's the end word, the end letter is 86. So that's where you get 86. I didn't include it here, but that's where you get it. Inu Osam. Chayim Vayinu Osam is the end letters are mem mem vav. So that's where you get 86, the end letters of the end of that. Awesome. All right, so the final piece that I have for Miriam, the Balei Tosafot explain this idea, connecting it to Hallel, and there is another gematria. In Psalm 113, right? It's the beginning of Hallel, and we said it today. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Avdei Hashem, right? So Avdei Hashem, right? Ayin is 70, Bet is 2, Dalet is 4, and Yud is 10. You got 86. So, so there's the idea of 86. Again, the concentrated time of the slavery, which was connected to Miriam, now becomes this connection to Hala. Okay, so that is the presentation of Miriam. There's more that you can have, so I just wanted to offer this as a homage to all the mothers and the matriarch who are so important in this Miriam piece is one aspect of it. Okay, yes,
I
yes.
just want to add something little bit. Just like Miriam has duality with duality between slavery, between slavery and freedom. I just want to add that matzah is the same thing, has a duality between slavery and freedom.
Duality. I can give every symbol of the Pesach Seder as a duality, which is very important to understand. Maybe I'll do that another time. But that is an excellent point, right? Matzah, maror even. I have other sources also to explain that. So yes, excellent point. It shows that there's a complexity, not just one or the other, but both. Yes.
I'm just curious, where you say that Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam represent the three matzahs, which one do you think represents which?
Personally, if you're asking me, I would have to say that I would go in chronological order. So since she was the oldest, she would be on the top.
And then you can turn the three matzot, it will be the other way around.
Okay, so I don't know which one you break on that. And that's got to be our own. You break an hour.
Meat, fish, and the
You know, one of
has to be the one.
why is that? Why is that?
Women carry eggs within them.
You know, that's an interesting point. In the article that I read, there was a suggestion that it didn't really make sense. They said that Moshe and Aaron, since they were the original part of the custom, that must have been the meat and the egg, and therefore Miriam is the fish. However, I don't see that as a definitive idea.
No.
I don't see it because where does it say in that mashal? Who says if you have the third mashal, that means they would have to have added the dog onto the other two, or but if it's a separate,
it's except that Miriam is the woman who produces, like fruit or fruit, so she's the fish. Fish reproduce so much. So
I like that was what I was going to say. So personally, I was going to add to that idea. So the idea there is that Miriam is the fish because fish is represented. It says the Yidgu Laro, the Karen Haaretz, and fish represents reproduction. And Miriam was. So this is another midrash. Miriam was crucial to the reproduction of the Jewish people. Some of you know this midrash that her parents separated until she got a hold of them and
educated them.
right, exactly. So you're familiar with that. So that whole midrashic approach fits in with this idea you're suggesting as well.
You carry it further when you're dealing with fish are in water. You associate Miriam with water.
Okay.
We're building a very good case. When we put out our own Haggadah, Hashem, with our interpretations of Torah law, we'll fit that in. Excellent, excellent point. Yes, David.
I had forgotten the meaning of chopping up eggs in cold water and actually eating the eggs with the salt in the salt. What was the meaning of it? Because my wife was not here anymore. I don't know. I don't remember it.
Yeah, we had that custom as well. We ate eggs in salt water. How many? Some of you dip the hard-boiled egg into the water. We had it made up as a little soup with water and salt. I don't know why I always loved that for some reason. The reason is right. So David forgot the reason. What's the reason for that? Right? Anyone remember?
Because it's rounded.
No.
Right, so that's the egg is round and dipping it in the salt water. The tears, right? So the egg is dipping it in. It's a sign of another sign of slavery. We have so many. I never understood that because we had so many symbols on the Seder plate about the bitterness of the slavery. Why did we have to add another one? Maybe it was because of the extra sorrows that the Jewish people had throughout history. I don't know. I just made that up on the spot. But it bothered me. But okay, so there's that. Okay, so now we're going to move into the next part. Since David asked a question about the Seder, so I'm going to transition into this Q&A. But before we do the Q&A, here I'm going to present a couple of questions that have already come across my desk. And if 2 or 3 people have already asked the same question, then it must be also for other people as well. So I'll get in the first shot today. I'll give you the answer to the question that you haven't asked, but it might be relevant to many of you. All right, so I got a question. Rabbi, I bought raw meat. It's not kosher, but it was not kosher for Pesach. It didn't have the seal on it. Can I use it for Pesach? So what is the obvious answer?
No.
No, the obvious answer is not so obvious. But I can't tell. The Heksher only told me that it was regular kosher. So it's not one of those things that, unless the OU specifically says that this OU Empire chicken, whatever, is kosher all year round, you can use it on Pesach. But if it's only given a Heksher, then we can't, because it's processed with a lot of other food. So we can't sign off and say that it's kosher for Pesach. The second question that I got by the same person, if my oven, look at this Gemara cup, if my oven was kosher for Pesach, and can I cook that roast that's not kosher for Pesach, can I cook it in that oven and it'll still remain kosher for Pesach? So what's the obvious answer? No. If it's not kosher for Pesach, then it's not kosher for Pesach. Right? I don't know if there's any chametz there, but I can't sign off. There's no little well in it. You can't say it's cold and it isn't. Drain out. That's just clear. If it does meat that doesn't have a Heksher for Pesach should not be used in a Pesach oven, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, your location.
I believe the question had to do with,
So now we're getting the Rashi and the Tosfos on the question.
and it had to do with Shabbos Hagadol.
Yes, it did. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But good Rashi. Good Rashi.
Well, if you cook it in a not kosher electric thing,
Cook it separately.
separate in another room,
Another room.
you can serve it Shabbos Hagadol, or
Right,
in the shower.
right. True. And eat on paper plates. Whatever.
Right.
However you figure it out. So now we did a Rashi and a Tosfos on the question. Yes.
Question of matzah.
Yes.
Whether it's more matzah, handmade matzah, machined more matzah, is it more than a preference?
So that's a good question. The preference for the mitzvah right? For the mitzvah of matzah on Pesach, right? There are a few things that we do, right? We eat matzah as a bracha for matzah, right? And as the motzi, so we eat it for the afikomen, we eat it for the koreg. It's best, preferable to use shmora matzah for the mitzvah. The mitzvah is the eating at the Leil Seder. That's the number one mitzvah. The other minhagim also preferably should be shmora matzah.
Is that handmade more matzah or machine made matzah?
Shmora matzah, it's either one. Some people like machine made, that it's more kosher. Some say it's less. So that would be, as far as I'm concerned, if it's shmora matzah, it's shmora matzah. There's no real difference as far as fulfilling which one you want to fulfill the mitzvah with, if it's shmora matzah. The rest of Pesach, besides the Seder, it's totally acceptable to use regular matzah. Some have the custom to eat shmora matzah the whole time. Kavo aleim bracha. All right, so the next issue I want to bring up is the hot plate. And this is I'm in the hot seat with this question, because there are some, you'll see online that some people have methods of koshering the hot plate. I disagree with that. I'm not a big machmir on things. I just don't think that it's possible to really clean out and kosher the hot plate, because when you spill stuff on the hot plate, it gets into the cracks and it goes into the elements as well. And there's really no way to kosher that. So even with the way that people say that you should do it, I'm not comfortable with it. So I do not kosher my hot plate to get another one for Pesach. Yeah,
Not covering our hot plate. You know, the only thing to do is wash it good, dry it good, and then put aluminum foil around it. The aluminum foil will be a very element that's separate that you can put your kosher utensil, on the.
Those who say you can kosher it require you to put thick tin foil over it. Okay, so that is the method that those who say you can kosher it, how to use it. All right, I'm just giving you my personal feelings, and yeah, okay, so that's where I stand on it. Yes.
When you're talking hot plate, are you also including warming drawers?
Warming drawers, that's a separate question, but
Can they be hot?
warming drawers should not be koshered for Pesach, no. All right, so the next issue is the glass top of the rain, right? So this. All right, so the glass top, right? I think most of us have the glass top here in the village, right? So this can be koshered, right? You can kosher the circle, right? The burner part, whatever you call that. I don't know what you call it, the burner. And it's very important, just for safety reasons, just to do one at a time. Unfortunately, it'll take more time, but I've read that you shouldn't do all at the same time. When I had the gas range in our former homes, we used to, just put them all at the same time. It got nice and warm and toasty in our home. But here, one at a time. When it gets red hot, leave it on for 10 minutes. All right, and then turn it off, and then go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Okay, and the second, there are a few points here. The other point is that the places in between the burners cannot be kosher, right? So you should not put a pot directly on to that surface. You should use some kind of a trivet. All right, so that's important for that. Now, going back to the idea of the burners, there's a machlokas between the OU and the star K. Right? That's unusual that there's a machlokas. Right? So some say that you should put on the burner, use it for Pesach, to put a little little washer or some kind of a little paper clip kind of thing that separates from the burner. So those who want to be machmir can do that. Number two, paper clips.
It's thin.
All right,
You need a thicker one.
a thick one, a thick paper clip.
Water overflows.
Yeah,
That's why the bigger one.
a thicker one. So like a washer, like that's like 5/8 of an inch, 3/8, what 2/3 of it, or I don't know, whatever.
It's thicker than a paper.
Thicker than a paper clip.
You need more than one washer, otherwise it'll go. So
So you need
put
a-
four.
Right. You
That's
gotta
what
to balance it. That's what some people do. They put a couple
I want a big
more
one.
on the side, right? Depending on the size of the burner, check it out whichever way works. Okay, so that's to be machmir for that shita. Tova told me that there's something called a lomi cooktop, which is a mat, a cooktop mat, LOMI. You can buy it online. And I said, are you sure? Does it okay? Because cover, sometimes you shouldn't put aluminum or anything on it. But he said, no, that this is okay. And people in the village use these cooktops. So there you don't have to use the the metal either. So that's what I just saw it today. I mean, yesterday came from Amazon. So that's another way of, and then you cover the in-between parts too. It just covers the whole range. So that's a solution to that problem. Okay, now I'm gonna get into trouble with this one also, but if you were to ask me, I also feel that dishwashers should not be kosher for Pesach. You will find coming out of Israel, and even Rav Moshe Tendler, one of my Rebbeim, Zatzal, Rav Moshe Tendler, has this very complicated way of koshering a dishwasher. I didn't understand how it worked in the first place. He says it's okay. I don't recommend it because, especially for our population anyway, those of you who do feel you can kosher it, and those Rabbanim that do, you got to take a brick and you got to broil it in the oven. You got to put it on top of a wooden piece of wood inside and run it. Like, I would hurt myself if I even thought of trying to do it that way. And I just don't even know how it works in the first place. There's so many little crevices and things and the traps and with all the chazarai there on. I just don't know how it even works that way. And with Pesach, we're just machmir with it, with everything. Culture, even if it's pugum, I just don't like getting involved with those things. So that's just my opinion. If you ask me now, you know what I'm going to say for a dishwasher. Yeah.
Dishwasher, if you don't want to use it as storage for your clothes.
Okay, I thought you were going to do another try for. Okay, very good. Use it for storage. And people in Manhattan during the year use their ovens for storage because we always eat outside, right? All right, any other questions? Yes.
If one goes away for Pesach, what do they have to do? Or what don't they have to do?
Bernie, I was gonna say that. Very good. He said, take me with you. What's the question of what do you have to do?
Go away, hopefully, so we don't have to.
So you don't have to kasher. You don't have to kasher. So you've sold all your chametz, right? So you're selling the chametz that's in the, not that anyone's gonna need it and buy it, but you're selling the chametz that's in the pots, that's in the pans, that's in the ovens. So you're covered by selling your chametz. As far as the bedikas chametz goes, if you go away before the 14th at night, which this year is Tuesday night. If you go before Tuesday night, right? So then you have to do a bedika, but not with a bracha. Okay, you don't have to schlep your chametz to Muncie and to Teaneck and to wherever you're going, you can give it to a neighbor to throw into the for be your chametz that we do in the shul. Okay. All right.
No.
What?
No.
I don't understand what the question is. You know what it means.
You come back during. That was her question.
Well, what's
In other
the,
words, you're making Pesach, but you'll be back during Pesach. You have to make a bracha on your.
bracha is only because of when you're doing the bedika. So you do the bracha only if it's this year on Tuesday night, the 14th at night. Tuesday night.
Coming back and your kitchen will be.
You have to do a bedika and you have to kosher and clean. But you don't have to say a bracha. You do have to do bedika chametz the night before you're gonna leave. So when are you leaving?
That day.
So you have to do the regular bedika with a bracha and then dispose of it in the Ziyah chametz that we have. Okay, very good. Yeah, Nitzel.
Is it true that you don't have to make the Bedika if you leave more than 30 days before Pesach?
That is correct.
Before Purim.
That is correct. Since we're already in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, I didn't bring that point up, but you are 100% correct. So for next year, leave before Purim, and you don't have to do even a bedika.
Miriam said you before Sukkot.
So Machmirim. Okay, any more questions, comments? Yes.
Like to buy chocolate from one of the stores. You buy that chocolate, and the bottom it said no kosher for plastic. I went back to the guy and said, it's not kosher. Why are you putting it in the shelf? Another lady came, turned the chocolate upside down, and it said kosher for plastic.
Oh, boy. Maybe for Sparadim or no?
No, it was, so we just didn't buy it. We said, forget it, we don't know what it is.
I don't have an answer. My answer would be, yeah, wouldn't trust it, and I would call the hechsher. Like, how could they, who would be machsher? It says not kosher for Passover, then kosher for Passover. It doesn't make sense. Yes, Jeff.
You talk about kosher microwave.
Yes, koshering microwave. Yeah, so you gotta clean out the microwave, right, with whatever cleaner you use. Clean the there's a glass, clean the plate, clean the tray, clean beneath the tray, clean all of it, and then put a cup of water into the microwave, right? And they put it on for a couple of minutes, not so that it like causes a fire, but a couple of minutes where it's going to be boiling and there's going to be steam. And then when that process is done, put more water in the cup and then put the cup on another place within the microwave. So the place that was under the cup the first time will then be koshered again. All right, and there are some people, since it's just it's a glass thing, you just cover glass tray. We should be good for Pesach. So cover the glass tray with cardboard or paper or something like that. Yeah. Who's next? Yes.
But I keep use quinoa year round.
Quinoa.
I saw one quinoa that is open. In the front it's only pea, out of the pickup. But there are two extras in the back that say do not. I use that to do not use. Or
The same thing with the chocolate.
Our community follows the OU, so I would follow the OU because, in my opinion, years ago, quinoa became a question for some reason that it was like kidney, but it's not related at all to kidney. Some people, when it's new, we can't use it. So, just one second. So the question of quinoa to me is not a big question as far as the species is concerned. It's a grass, as some of you have just said. However, sometimes even things that are normally kosher, they're processed in facilities where they could be cross contamination. So over the years, the OU has said that it requires extra for Pesach, not because of quinoa, but because of the way it's prepared. Okay, so I would fall by the OU. Yes.
Not used for use 24 hours. Captured. That's into the microwave.
The microwave you don't have to, because the microwave itself is not. It's not a place where you're